Hello, and welcome to Down the Rabbit Hole. Today, we're going to be talking about a battle that's really known and that is taught in Tennessee history. And it emphasizes a general who I'm going to do my best to be as unbiased as possible. But anyway, before I get started, hit that like button, ring that bell for notifications, and subscribe. Help a girl out. But anyway, most of us know Tennessee was not originally supposed to be a state. Originally, now, throughout many years, and through a little thing called the Lost Country of Franklin and everything, it would eventually become a state, which we will call it Tennessee. So, I love history. I'm a huge history nut in general. So, I'm gonna go ahead and put that out there. But anyway, yeah. Today we're going to talk about a famous battle that was happening in the War of 1812. But here's the unique thing about this battle. This battle not only was in the War of 1812, but it was also in the Creek Civil War, and it ended the Creek Civil War um, as well. Now, if you're an insomniac like me, but you also love history, and you're just really wanting something to challenge your brain, here we go. Now, I want to go ahead and get my disclaimers out of the way real quick. I hate Andrew Jackson with a passion. The guy is a narcissistic jerk. I'm not going to say what I want to use because this is the camera, but yeah. Um, mm, Literally, yeah, so in my Tennessee history class over at MTSU, we had literally like the guys in our class loved him, while all the girls, including me, we all hated him. If you can see how that went, yeah. But yeah, but let's talk about the battle, shall we? I could do a whole episode on why I hate him, but I'm not going to. But we have to go back to the morning of March 27, 1814, in what is now Tallapoosa County, where General Andrew Jackson and his army, consisting of Tennessee militia and the U.S. regulars and the Cherokee and Lower Creek allies, attacked Chief Minowa in his upper creeks, or the rustics, if you would like to call them that, who were warriors that were fortified in the Horseshoe Bend of Tallapoosa River, facing overwhelmingly odds. The rustics fought bravely yet lost, and more than 800 Upper Creek warriors died in a horseshoe bend defending their homeland. And we can just say this was a massacre at this point. So, but yeah. So this was the final battle of the Creek Civil War from 1813 to 14, and the victory at Horseshoe Bend brought Andrew Jackson national attention. And helped elected him president in 1828. This battle also gave him some military recognition. So I think this battle is also what helped boost his ego. I feel like he was already egocentric beforehand. But gotta be as unbiased as possible. But in the treaty signed after the battle, known as the Treaty of Fort Jackson, the Creeks ceded more than 21 million acres of land to the U.S. And long before the Battle of Horseshoe Bend, the Creeks, who lived in a loose confederation of towns along the rivers in west central Georgia and east central Alabama. Now, American settlers divided the Creek towns geographically into two groups: the lower towns along the Chattahoochee, Flint, and Ocmulgee, and the upper towns along with the Tallapoosa, Coosa, and Alabama rivers. In 1811, the Shawnee military leader, Texama, visited the southeastern tribes, hoping to encourage them to return to their ancient traditions. This was become things called traditionalist versus accommodationalist and everything else. And we can guess what the traditionalists are, right? Versus the accommodationalist. But anyway, when the war broke out in the U.S. between the U.S. and Great Britain over a misunderstanding, I really believe, um, in 1812. The War of 1812, which interim brought on the Creek War of 1813-14, which began the Creek Civil War between the Creeks and the Upper and Lower Creeks towns, friendly to the U.S. and faction to the Upper towns called the Rustics. Hostile toward the Americans, most scholars believed um, that the Rustics took their name from their painted red war cloths. So, let's talk about the massacre at Fort Mims. On July 27, 1813, A small force in the Mississippi Territorial Militia ambushed a party of rustics returning from Pensacola and Spanish ammunition and supplies at Burnt Corn Creek, which, fun fact, is a Burnt Corn, Alabama. There's also a Pineapple, Alabama. Yeah, don't get the pineapple one. The burnt corn I can get. But anyway, it's located near the border of what is now Customer and Escambia counties. 1 month later, on August 30th, the Rustics retaliated, killing about 250 Creek and American settlers at Fort Mims, a stockade just north of Mobile, and the Fort Mims Massacre, as it came to be known, turned on the Creek War in a largely larger conflict with the U.S. forces from Tennessee, Georgia, and Mississippi territories launching the three prolonged assault into the Creek territory. Now, the governor of Tennessee, can we guess who he appointed? Yeah, Andrew Jackson. And let's see, and it was noted that Andrew Jackson was a prominent state politician and militia officer who literally had rivalries with everybody. I'm not kidding you when I say that. Like John Sevier, he had a rivalry with him, because he put his name in for general of the militia and everything. What's your military experience? Let's add that, by the way. But anyway, he would lead a portion of his state's militia into Creek County, and Jackson followed a slow and difficult campaign south along the Coosa River in March of 1814. He was reinforced by regular soldiers of the 39th United States Infantry, and Jackson would leave the Coosa with a force of 3,300 men, including 500 Cherokee, 100 Lower Creeks, who allied with the U.S. He intended to attack on the Red Creek Refuge in a defensive position at Horseshoe Bend on the Tallapoosa. Now, on March 26th, Jackson's army would camp 6 miles northwest of Horseshoe Bend. Manawa, a respected war leader in the town of Ospasky, waited at the bend with 1,000 Rustics warriors, and with 350 women and children, beginning December 1813, people from the 6 upper creeks have gathered in Horseshoe Bend for protection. And at the toe of the bend, they built a temporary village called Tapahoka. Tahopeka. I know I'm probably butchering that up. I'm terrible with names, and I do apologize. But they constructed a long and dirt barricade nearly 400 miles across a narrow neck of the bend. In this fortified place, the rustics hoped to defeat on attacking the army, or at least delay the attacks, while the women, children, and the older men escaped down the river. So, who's John Caulfield? Well, at 6:30 p.m. On March 27, Jackson divided his army. He ordered General John Coffey's force of 700 um, mounted riflemen and 600 allied warriors to cross the Tallapoosa, about 2.5 miles down from Tabahoka, and surrounded the village. Now, it's also important to note that the Upper Creeks also allied themselves with Great Britain. You want the irony behind all of this? Their allies were never there. Yep. But anyway, the 2,000 remaining men, led by Jackson, marched directly for the neck of the Horseshoe Bend and the barricade, and Jackson knew it would be difficult to attack the imposing barricade. He also chose the 39th Infantry for the most disciplined and best trained of his soldiers to lead the assault, including Major Lemuel Montgomery, who would among be the first to fall and would have been honored by Montgomery County, named in his honor. Now, before sending them forward, he decided to blow the wall with his cannon. The bombardment would begin at 10:30. For 2 hours, they shot and shot, and this was like a whole massacre. So let's keep that in mind. I'm not even gonna go how they. I'm not even gonna tell you how they now counted the victims. Yeah, you don't want to know how they counted the victims, especially if you're eating while you're listening to this. You definitely have a weak stomach. You don't want to know. But anyway, meanwhile, across the river at the Tobahoka, 3 of the Coffee Cherokee warriors slipped into the river, swam the canoes lying on the opposite bank using the stolen canoes, and the Cherokee and Lower Creek warriors crossed the river with increasing numbers, attacking them, and they were burning this little temporary village. At about 12:30 p.m., Jackson would launch his attack. After seeing After a few and four, many tried to escape into the river, but Coffee's men shot them before they could reach the opposite bank, and the fighting raged for nearly 6 hours, and darkness fell into battle. Now, more than 800 rustic warriors were killed, with 557 counted on the battlefield. In Miniwa, he remained a prominent leader in the Creek Society. You want to know how he survived? He never showed up for the battle. Yeah, I know. Let's talk about the treaty at Fort Jackson real quick. So, the Battle of Horseshoe Bend effectively ended the Creek War, but it made Jackson a national hero. He was also made General of the U.S. Army in January 8, 1815, and defeated the British forces at the Battle of New Orleans, which technically wasn't really a defeat because it was more of a draw than anything, but it did change our nationalism and how we saw that war. But the Battle of Horseshoe Bend in New Orleans brought him popularity and got him to be seventh president of the U.S. Well, he also known for that he was also the first president to actually go and campaign as well. Because before then, you couldn't elect a president. You couldn't. You basically Congress, basically the House and everything. They were the ones who chose who the president was, and there was like the whole 1824 corrupt bargaining, which I could do a whole episode on that, which we're not later on down the road. But anyway, a few months after Horseshoe Bend, on August 9th, 1814, he would do a gathering at the Chief Creeks and do them sign the Treaty of Fort Jackson. And thousands of settlers poured into the vast ceded acreage, which would become the state of Alabama in 1819. Now, today, the battlefield is preserved by the National Park Service in Horseshoe Bend Military near Dadeville. All right, that is it for this episode. I tried to be as unbiased as I could about Andrew Jackson. I try to. Truth is, I just really hate the guy. Not gonna lie. But I'll see y'all next time. Y'all have a great day and try and stay cool out there.